Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Tuesday morning livecast. Today, we're going to do some reviews on some things that came up in the past week or so, and some questions that came in. Before we get started, again, I'd like to tell you about the seminar that we'll be having in Boston on August 2nd through the 4th. A 3-day intensive boot camp on the note business. We'll cover everything from finding to due diligence to purchasing to workouts to sale of performers. And we'll do, it'll be on first, seconds, and some seller financed. It's a very, very intensive 3 days. And I don't think there's anything else like it on the market. And best of all, probably, you all know that the note business is a learn by doing business. And this seminar can be free because we allow you to use your tuition as a credit toward the purchase of a note. So please go to notemogul.com, notemogul.com, to get all the information and to sign up. So we really look forward to seeing you in Boston, October 2nd to 4th. And if you have not been to New England in the fall, this is the time to see it. We're hoping that we have picked the peak week for color. And we'll just have a great time there. So please go to notemogul.com and check it out. Okay, so let's get started. Over the course of the last week and as recently as yesterday, I have met with some potential investors that want to get into the note business. And they just have had a very difficult time coming to grips with second mortgages. And for those of you that know us, we are primarily second mortgage investors. And we do buy firsts. Our portfolio mixture is growing a little bit in the first market. We want to be at probably no more than 35% firsts, 65% seconds. And right now we sit at about 65%. I mean, yeah, about 70% seconds, 30% firsts. And there are a lot of reasons for us to be in the second market. And the questions came up in the last week about, last week and the week before, we had key value on to show you how to calculate some very easy calculations to show you how just how profitable the note business can be, and some of the things that you can do with seconds that you can't do with firsts for profitability standards. And secondly, because of the price that you pay for seconds, some of the things that you can do with them that just aren't possible with the first. And that's why we like seconds so much. So today, now that you have had a background in the calculation part of the business, how to do certain things with a note, how to buy it, get it worked out, and then sell a partial, or how to sell split payments, which we have people doing right now. We just went through a sale of some reperformers, and some of the people that bought those reperformers have gone out and sold partials. People that were at our last seminar in San Francisco, the 3-day seminar we had in San Francisco, went out and really did some super things with the loans that they bought. For example, buying reperforming seconds at a 15% yield and selling them off. One person was selling splits where they were dividing the payment in half. They were taking half and they sold half payment to investors for a 10% yield. So they were coming out with very little in the cost of their note. And you could also sell partials at 60 months or whatever. Those are the things that we discussed previous. So today, I want to just go back and review a few things, give you a couple of really strong examples of why we are involved in seconds as our primary investment vehicle. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to go to PowerPoint, and I want to go through some things with you on the PowerPoint display, and we'll get a calculator up on the screen in just a minute also, and kind of go through some calculations with you. So, so here we go. Let me see why I'm not getting the, okay, so as far as Main Street Capital Partners is concerned, why do we like seconds so much? And I guess there's basically 5 reasons why we have gone to seconds primarily. And the first is profitability. When you buy at the price that you can buy seconds at, and lenders do sell seconds at a lower rate than they sell firsts, of course, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute also, you can make a far better profit. Even if you're buying, let's say, 10 loans and 4 of them fail completely, or 5 of them for that matter, the ones that are left will have a profit margin that will still allow you to get a very nice return on your entire portfolio. And we're gonna see a couple of those today. There is a very low price on seconds, and you can buy several seconds for the price of one first. By buying at a low price, you have an opportunity to put together a deal that is very meaningful for the homeowner and allows them to stay in their home while you still make a profit at it. And I'll tell you, when you can work out a situation and keep a homeowner in their home and make a profit at it, I think you found the best business in the world. So next is the ability that you have to completely lose some of the portfolio that you purchase and still make a handsome profit on the overall investment. And then once you have these worked out and they are reperforming, there is a large investor appetite for them. And it's not hard to sell reperforming notes for a 15% yield, especially in today's day and age when the volatility of the stock market has people very, very concerned, and the rates being paid by the banks are so, I think they're insulting. And if you're able to offer somebody a reperforming note with a 15% yield that is secured by real estate, they're very, very easy to sell. So I think it's nice if you can understand, why does the bank sell at a discount on seconds that is greater than a discount that they would sell for on a first? And I think this chart pretty much explains it. So if you will remember that back in 2000, to 2006 and 7, a common way for a bank to finance a purchase was with 100% loan to value, no money into the deal by the homeowner, and many firsts were written for 80%, followed by a second for 20%. So the first showed a 80% loan to value. The second made up that 20, and the total combined loan to value on that house was 100%. We're buying a lot of those today, and you probably are too if you're buying second mortgages. So let's take a look at what the bank sees, and you all realize that the bank has reserve requirements, and those reserve requirements are based somewhat on the loan that is placed. So in this chart, we can see the difference between a first and a second. So if the loan to value of a first is 60% or less, that is, for example, if it's a $100,000 loan and the bank, if the house is worth $100,000 and the bank loans $60,000 or less, that is a loan to value of less than 60%. So the bank is charged a 35% reserve rate on that if it's a first. If it's a second, it's 100% reserve rate. And we go down the chart. So now a loan to value that's greater than 60 but less than 80, the first is 50%. The second, again, is 100%. On a loan greater than 80% but less than 90%, the first has a 75%. So for example, if the loan was for $100,000, the loan reserve rate on that would be $75,000, or 10% of that, $7,500. On a second, it's 100%. So whatever the loan is the reserve rate. And then on a loan that is greater than 90%, the first has 100, but the second has 200%. So back in 2000 through 2006, probably started earlier than 2000, these loans were written at 100% loan to value. So every second loan that was written on that 80-20 principle, where 20% of the purchase price was in the form of a second, every one of those had 200% loan reserve rates. So the bank needed to retain 200%. Now, when that failed, the balance sheet of the bank looked horrible because a $20,000 note showed up as a $40,000 note in arrears. So the bank is very, very anxious to get those off of their balance sheet. Now, there's one other concern, and that is, is the bank in a financial stability with their balance sheet that they can afford to take a 200% hit on their reserve rate off the balance sheet? So for example, if they have a $20,000 note that is a hit that's going to show up as $40,000, does the bank have a sufficiently strong balance sheet to sell that note? In the past, the big banks have taken the steps to liquidate their bad second mortgages pretty quickly along those guidelines. And so over the course from, let's say, 2007 until today, they have been liquidating or selling off those loans their balance sheet could take a hit, and they have wiped those off of their books. They've charged them off. The regional banks, the smaller banks, in some cases, large banks too, their balance sheet would not allow them to take that hit, because their performance wasn't that good to begin with. And then when the charge-off came, it was very difficult for them to be able to afford to take that hit. Well, as of January 1st of this year, the reserve requirements have been increased. Basel III came into effect, requiring the reserves to be higher, and therefore the only way for these regional banks now to raise cash is to sell these non-performing notes and get them off of their books. So what that means is that over the course of the next 3 to 5 years, we think that the opportunity to buy these notes are going to be still with a glut of inventory. There's still a lot out there that have to be sold before this mess is cleaned up. Now, why are we so interested in buying loans at, in this case, approximately 21 cents on the dollar? Let's go through this and kind of give you an idea of how the second mortgage purchase of delinquent second mortgage business works. This particular loan was on a tape that we purchased. The unpaid principal balance was $89,621.60 when we purchased the note. We purchased the note for $19,000, or 21 cents on the dollar. And our reasoning behind our purchase price on this was that the first had been modified and it was performing. So at the last slide in this presentation, we'll talk about what that indicates to us, but this was behind a performing first mortgage. Our asset manager went to work. Well, let me go back a little bit and kind of give you a little background of what happened with this note prior to us being able to work it out with the homeowner. Our initial conversations with the homeowner, once the homeowner would talk to us, were not very good. The homeowner took a defensive posture, didn't really know who we were, and wasn't willing to talk to us, was actually kind of nasty to the asset manager, hung up on her. And so after that happened, we go through our procedure, and at a certain point, we sent a door knocker out. That door knocker was able to talk to the homeowner. The homeowner answered the door, and again was very defensive and nasty, but the door knocker convinced the homeowner that we really wanted to help them. So the homeowner, on the advice of the door knocker, called the asset manager. The asset manager then assured the homeowner that we were there to help. We wanted to work out a solution that that homeowner was comfortable with, and started visiting with them. The homeowner mentioned to the asset manager that he was a veteran with some slight disabilities. His legs hurt, and by the way, this guy was a pastor of a church in Virginia. And our asset managers, she listened very intently to his story, and the veteran kind of struck a chord with her. So she said, okay, let me find out if there's any programs available to you. So they hung up. She assured him that she would get back to him. He assured her that he would take her phone call. They now at least had a communication going. She went to the state of Virginia and learned that there was a program for veterans who were having a hard time with their mortgages to alleviate property tax. So she was able to save him $3,000 a year in property tax savings. In addition, she looked at his insurance and she found a $4,000 a year premium on his homeowner's insurance. And what we think happened is that he may have gotten behind in his homeowner's insurance, and the first placed forced mortgage insurance, very, very expensive insurance, by the way, on the property. So she started investigating and found out that she could get insurance for this homeowner at $1,200 a year, which saved him another $2,800 a year for a total savings of $5,800. Now, do you, if you are debt collecting on your own, or does your servicer work this hard with the homeowner to find a solution? I hope so. So now the man had $5,800 worth of income that wasn't going to taxes or insurance that he could use to make a payment on his second mortgage to us. By the way, he also had, he had arrears on this loan of $67,850. Big amount, almost as much as his unpaid principal balance. So the deal was struck with this homeowner that we would add $15,000 of arrears to the UPB, the unpaid principal balance. So now the UPB was $104,621.60. And that we would set up a payment plan at $435 per month and reduce the interest rate that he had on that note from 10% to 4%. So let's just go back to the calculator real quick. And I want to show you, I just want to refresh your memory of how we determine how long it's going to take to pay off a note if we have 100, now we have 104,000, let's see here, what was it? $104,621.60. So that is our PV. Our payment is $435 per month. That's a negative. It's going out of his pocket, $435 per month. The $104,621 is a loan that's into his pocket. We're going to give him a 4% interest rate. We have a 0 present value. $435 payment. And we want to solve, remember, if you have 4 of them, either in t-value or in the 10b2 calculator, if you have 4 of the numbers, you can solve for the fifth. And we want to know how long is it going to take him at $435 a month for 104,000 at 4% to pay that dude off. 486 months. Okay. That's a lot of months. But do we care? Not really. It doesn't matter. I think everybody on the call realizes that most loans are either going to pay off, get refinanced, or the home is going to sell in a shorter period of time, like 7 to 10 years. So 10 years, 120 months. So it's very unlikely that this would ever go 486 months, but those are the numbers, and that's what we want to use. So we set this up. He's agreed to pay $435 a month for 486 months at 4% interest. So we collect that money for 12 months. That's 435 times 12 is $5,220 a year. And then we're going to sell that note to an investor for $34,703.54. If you want to see how we came up with that number, it's very simple. Let's go back to the calculator. We have 486 months. Let's round that down. 486 at 435. This is now money coming in, so we're going to make that positive. 435. We have we want to give the we want to give the investor a 15% yield. And so now we're going to solve for present value. 34,716.90. Okay, that happens occasionally. You're going to get a little difference. This is $13. I didn't think so. It's just calculator error. A lot of times you'll get that. Doesn't really matter. But the total then collected, if we sell it for $34,703.54 and we receive $5,220 already, we collect $39,923.54, or an ROI, total ROI on the profit, 110%, which is annualized 55% return. Now, this is definitely not a home run, but I would take every one of them that does this. This would take 2 years to do, to season it for 12 months after finally get him to pay after 12 months. So it's a total of, let's say, 24 months. Anything less than that would increase our yield, but 55% on this one, where we gave this guy a screaming deal, $435 a month. If he pays for those 12 months, we eliminated $52,850 worth of arrears. So there's his incentive to make sure that he doesn't miss a payment. So this is what we would consider to be a pretty vanilla deal. All right. Here's one that is not so vanilla. This one here, and this again is not, although it is not an everyday occurrence, it is somewhat commonplace. So this happens to be on a home in San Mateo, California, which is a very high-priced market just south of San Francisco. This loan had a UPB of $45,799. When we got a hold of the homeowner, and this one happened rather quickly, everything was completed on this within 6 months. She immediately sent a check for $14,000 with the agreement that we would deduct that from her balance. Now, if you'll go down, you can see we paid $8,500 for this note. Unbelievable. We're into this note for nothing. As a matter of fact, we made $5,500 on it in 6 months, and we still have payments of $250 a month coming in. We reduced her rate from 8% to 4%. We did the same calculation as we did before. She has a 31,799 unpaid principal balance. 31,799 is the unpaid principal balance. She's going to pay $250 a month. 4%. Oops. Where you solve for N, she's going to pay 165 months. So that's how we came up with that number, 165. So she's going to pay us $250 a month times 12. It's $3,000 a year. And we don't have any cost in this loan. Actually, we made, well, it's $5,500 and all finished in 9 months. If we wanted to sell this note, we would have if we seasoned it for 150 for 12 months and we sold it for a 15% yield, what would we make on this one? Well, let's figure that out. We have $250 a month positive. We have 15% interest. $165. We probably would round that up to 166. But they've paid 12 months, so we have to reduce that. So we're going to take 12 months off of that, would reduce it down to 153 months. And we're going to sell it then for $17,010.56. So 17,010 plus we got $14,000 cash. We collected $31,010 in 9 months on, or in 12 months on a note that we paid $8,500 for. So this is one that we would consider to be a home run, and this would be a mixture in that second mortgage pool. So let's go a step further then. One thing at both meetings that I had this week on second mortgages was that even when you show the calculations and what kind of a yield is available in a second mortgage, people have a very, very hard time understanding the number one concept in second mortgages, and that is emotional equity. Unless the house is vacant when we buy the note, if it is occupied by the homeowner and it is not an investment property, every one of them will have some emotional equity involved. What is that? That is the premise that people do not want to leave their home. They have a vested personal interest, not necessarily a monetary interest. Maybe no monetary equity, but they certainly have emotional equity. They if given the opportunity to stay, they want to stay. When you're buying mortgages at cents on the dollar, pennies on the dollar, you as the investor can make a deal with the homeowner that keeps them in their home. And believe me, that's what they want to do. They have kids in school. They don't want an embarrassment with their neighbors. They have maybe done some improvements. There is a huge amount of emotional equity, and that is by far the most important concept in understanding seconds. If you do not understand that, then you will not buy a second, you should not buy a second mortgage. So yeah, with that concept in mind of emotional equity and how important it is to the second market, then by all means, try to get your head around that. Try to understand what a second mortgage is. Try to understand what the homeowner is going through during this time. Try to put yourselves in a position and understand their dilemma, that if they will talk to you, if you can get them to talk to you, you need to assure them that you can make a deal. And you can on a second mortgage because of the price you're paying for it. So that's why we're in second mortgages. These were just two examples of things that have happened recently. And they're things that happen every day for us because we're dealing with so many notes. But if you have a portfolio of seconds, and by all means, do not buy 1 second or 2 seconds. We like to think that if you're going to get into the second niche, you need to be buying 10 at least. Do not buy 1 or 2, because if you do, those will be the 1 or 2 that fail. It never ceases. You know, everybody thinks I'm going to buy one, hit a home run, and that rarely happens on a one-off. So make sure you're buying enough to spread your risk and really get comfortable with emotional equity. And I think you will really enjoy the second loan market. So thank you again. I'd like to tell you about the Boston seminar. We'd really like to see you there. Go to notemogul.com. It's October 2nd through the 4th. We'll have a great time. All of our team will be there. I will be there. Chrissy will be there. By the way, Chrissy is back to work. She came back to work yesterday after spending several days in the hospital, very much scare for her mother and I. She's doing very well now. And thank all of you that sent your well wishes. We really do appreciate that. She appreciates that. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Happy investing. Bye.